Hi, Ariana. Welcome back.
Hi.
How are you? How's everything going?
I'm doing good. Things are going like really good, to be honest.
Oh, that's so good to hear. Definitely a big change from last time. I know you were definitely going through some personal things, some sleep issues. So I'm glad to hear it's going a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I did put your 3-day food record through my little chronometer that I have here. So I have a little bit of an in-depth analysis for you. We could talk about that in this session. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about the goals that we set. And so we talked about trying to have a consistent bedtime. I believe we tried to say like at least be in bed by midnight. How would you
Mhm.
say that has gone for you?
Well,
And be very
let me say, trying to have a bedtime did help on a couple of days. I was like, oh, I gotta be in bed. Like, it helped give me some structure. But there were definitely a few days especially when I visited home,
mm,
where I stayed up until like 5 in the morning, like
okay.
3 days in a row. And I was like, what is this? But like I didn't have work or anything for once. So it didn't
Would you,
really affect me.
would you say maybe it's because you didn't want to go to bed? You enjoyed family time? Maybe? Or do you think it was something else?
I maybe like a combination.
Yeah, I guess you got to really like
Um,
somebody to be up until 5 a.m. for them, right?
right, because nobody was
You
around.
know?
I was like, what am
Yeah.
I doing?
Okay. I mean, it's the holidays. Obviously, we're going to be a little bit different on the holidays, but I'm really happy to hear that like you felt like it was implemented in some way and you felt like you did like how many days would you say in the past? It's been about a week and 2 days. So that's like what, 9 days? How many days out of the past 9 days would you say you went to bed midnight or earlier?
I say maybe 4 or 5.
Okay, that's great. That's solid half. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think going to bed at the same time is very difficult for a lot of people and takes a lot of discipline. And quite frankly, I feel like a hypocrite sometimes telling people to go to bed at a time when I'll just go straight without sleeping, but not about me. Um, I'm happy to hear that. I think the big thing was structure and like putting that structure in place is going to help you really get that sleep you need, get it consistently, and feel like you're better and ready to take on the day. And also not have all those consequences on diet that we've been discussing. On that note, let's talk about the beans. How are the beans?
Puppy. Okay, hear me out. It
Yeah,
was the
I
holidays,
am here.
so we
That is very fair.
spoke. Was it last Monday?
It was Sunday, I think.
Okay, last
Okay.
Sunday. And then on Tuesday night, I went home. So I was eating whatever was at home and like eating out a lot. Then I got back Saturday and I spent 2 nights at my little boyfriend's house. So
Oh,
I was
nice.
eating whatever he was having, like whatever he was serving me. And then finally I get home last night and my roommate made me a burger. And so I haven't had to cook for myself since we last spoke, basically.
Okay, so you didn't cook for yourself at all. Well, I mean, it's pretty hard
Basically.
to follow that goal then, right? Okay, so I think it's safe to say that it kind of wasn't, we didn't give it really a fair shot, right? It was a different
Yeah.
time. So
Not
it's totally
applicable.
fine. Normally I'd say like I'd wonder because it wasn't successfully done twice. That makes me wonder maybe it's just not a good goal and we should try something else. But it wasn't really a typical time. It was the holidays. I know this is our last session, but I mean you already bought the beans, so why
They're
not
gonna
try it,
get
right?
me.
They're there. My money was spent. Purchases were made, so I'd say try it out. Um, I think that kind of brings me on to what I want to talk about next, which is your 3-day food record. I got a lot of great information from that. From what I'm seeing here is a lot of stuff is really good. You're for the most part getting all the food you need on average throughout the day. Um, One thing that was a little bit low is protein. According to that 3 day record, you were only getting 67% of the protein you need, which kind of makes me think the beans further sort of emphasizes the beans are a good idea because we discussed about different protein foods. I remember you saying you didn't like nuts so much.
Hmm.
And I mean, looking at your actual record, I mean, you have protein foods, you have salmon, you have rice, and adding the beans with that rice is going to make it a more complete protein. Um, you ate oats. So there's definitely some stuff there. I just think maybe we need to take it a little bit further.
Hmm.
Um, as far as the micronutrients, overall they're looking really good. You really are getting a pretty good percentages of a lot of your stuff. There's great B12, great folate, great potassium, great fiber, which is good to see. Keeps us regular, right? The iron was a little bit low, like 77%, but that doesn't really concern me too much. One thing that was on the lower end at 41% is vitamin A. And I can sort of see in your diet how that makes sense just based on the 3 days. I don't see a ton of vitamin A foods. Yeah, but overall, like I'm really happy to see the numbers that I'm seeing. There's just a few things. Um, Vitamin A, we can sort of consider vegetables like carrots, sweet potatoes, spinach.
Oh,
How do we feel about like those?
I love sweet potatoes.
Okay, I think sweet potato would be a really good one to try to get more in.
Is vitamin A fat soluble?
Yes, it is one of the fat soluble vitamins.
Okay, because I go through phases where I'll have like sweet potatoes is one of the main things. Not every day, but like a phase where I'll have it a few times a week for like a month or so.
Okay.
Does that like make up for it, or is it like every day I have to have vitamin A?
I mean, vitamin A you have to have daily. It doesn't have to necessarily be sweet potato. Those are just some examples of foods. You say you have salmon, and that's also very high in vitamin A. And that's probably where like the vitamin A is coming from in the diet, because you obviously don't have zero. So, you know, another thing you could be just like if possible, if you feel like it's feasible for you, is to just try to have salmon a little bit more than you are. How many times a week would you say you have the salmon? Because I know you mentioned salmon a lot.
Um, it'll vary so much, but like I could see myself having it like 3 times a week.
Okay. I mean,
And
that's
I was
pretty good.
trying to avoid having it like super regular because I was worried about the mercury. I thought it was a high mercury fish before, but you said it's not.
I don't think it's one of the fish that's of a huge concern. Salmon is truly, I think, one of the healthiest proteins for its omega-3 fatty acids, protein, vitamin A, lots of other great stuff. So I wouldn't worry too much about mercury personally for that. I know we discussed that. Um, so calcium is a little bit on the lower side. It's 65%. I notice you eat kefir a lot, and that's a good source of calcium. How many times a week would you say you have that? Because you mentioned it, I think, in your dietary 24 hour, in your original like 1 day of diet, and also in your, so it seems to be a common food for you.
I would say in more often than not, I'll have like a cup before bed.
Okay.
Not so much lately, but that's kind of like a habit.
So you say it's more of that like bedtime situation that we've been talking about, as opposed to being in
Yeah.
the morning. Okay. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, I know I mentioned spinach for vitamin A, but spinach is also great in calcium. How do we feel about spinach? We feel strongly about it. Do we like it? Do we hate it?
Spinach. I love spinach. I was trying to get my iron from spinach at one point, and then I read that like the way that it's set up in there with something about oxalic acid or something, not a lot of the iron in spinach is bioavailable.
That is to an extent true. We do get iron from spinach. The oxalates can interfere with the absorption of some minerals like calcium and iron. In general, iron is better utilized from animal sources than plant sources. Like the iron from the animal sources are more bioavailable.
Mm.
So, but that,
But the calcium from spinach is good.
yes, calcium and iron as well. Um, and also what I like about spinach is it's really easy to just kind of sneak into things. Like it's really easy to, oh, we lost it.
Sorry. I was trying to keep my phone on the charger, but it's not
Okay.
balanced. So,
It's really easy to sneak into things. You can just put it in a smoothie and you can't even taste it. You could throw it in like stir fry or like a vegetable medley dish that you're making.
Mhm.
You could throw it in soup. It's really easy to disguise and hide. It doesn't have like a super strong flavor, but if you like spinach, it's not an issue anyway. Um, I think that could help. Um, One thing I noticed and that you might want to consider, um, I know you mentioned we talked last time, I remember, about like a day where your diet intake was different than what it's been in the past and the extent that it's more excessive. And you mentioned eggs. How often would you say you consume eggs?
A few times a week.
Okay. I think eggs, for protein and the vitamin A, it also contributes vitamin A to the diet. I think if you try to do a little more of that, that'd be great. Um,
And that's on a good week though. On a bad week it's zero times a week. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, we can only do the best we can. So I think eggs would be a useful thing. I'm trying to think of foods that target multiple things that, according to the recall, your diet was a little low in.
I can
So
make a spinach omelet.
spinach omelet, there you go. Perfect. Stuff like that. It's always a good opportunity too to try new foods, right? And new combinations. Um, Vitamin C was a little bit on the lower end as well let's see, it was only 60%. Um, Vitamin C, how do we feel about like red bell peppers? Because that's good for C and vitamin A. And since vitamin A is the lowest of your diet, I'm really thinking of like foods that have them. But if you feel like it's not something you could eat,
I
you know.
do like red bell peppers.
Okay, so red bell peppers, citrus fruit, broccoli. I mean, your fruits and vegetables overall are decent. You do definitely consider fruits and vegetables throughout the day. But eating fruits and vegetables like this will up your vitamin C levels. Even something as simple as, I don't know if you're an orange juice drinker, drinking a glass of orange juice in the morning for some people is enough. Um, so things like that. Just a couple of suggestions, and I can go over those again at the end. But all in all, I mean, I can tell that you are, to an extent, a health conscious person. I mean, even talking with you, you do consider like with the food and how the where the food comes from and like what could be actually in the food. And we talked about the mercury. We talked about like even just now you talked about bioavailability of the iron in spinach. So you do have some knowledge, which is good. It's so much easier to work with somebody like that.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's just what I wanted to say about that. Let's talk about just in general, how are things going? You mentioned things are going well compared to how they were.
Yes. Um, the definitely less stress. Um, the old the boyfriend from before who was like going through all the schizophrenia and stuff. He's like still in the hospital, still taking his meds, and I took a step back because I couldn't be subjected to what he was doing anymore.
Okay. So did you take a step back, you ended things, or you just like took a break?
Um, just stopped answering his calls.
Okay.
Yeah. And I told him I can't be talking to you like in the future if you're not like compliant with your uh like therapy and ongoing treatment and medication and stuff. And he like asserted that there's nothing wrong with him. Um,
Well,
so
for
it
debate.
kind of like implying he's just being compliant for now, so they let him out of the hospital. Um, so I kind of like, like at that point, I was like, what am I gonna do? I did everything
You,
that I could.
you did everything you could. You did more than what most people would do. I mean, you went above and beyond communicating with his mother. I remember that, really trying to
Yeah.
get him stable. But really hats off to you for really setting that boundary. I think that boundary is hard for a lot of people to set, in that, like we have to say like at one point like it's enough. Like because, like, if he's like, trying to call you and keep this relationship, but not change his problematic behaviors, it's just not going to work, right?
Right.
Um, so hats off to you for that. Healthy boundary is always very important.
Thank you.
Um, so I guess because it really was a huge topic in the last session, your sleep overall, how has it been? Has it been better?
Yes. I actually found out that I didn't know that marijuana was legal completely in New York, and I
This,
got some edibles that are for sleeping.
okay,
And I took the first one like a few days ago. It's been a couple of nights and it's helping like so much.
really?
It
Okay,
like changed my days. So now I'm like I feel good.
good. That's really great to hear. Um, whatever works, works. The important thing is that you're getting your sleep and you're trying to go to bed at a consistent time, so you have enough energy. Oh, so yoga, are we all certified or how is that going?
So graduation is this coming Sunday. I'm
Ah,
really nervous.
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
The
amazing.
final test or whatever is to like instruct an actual class of strangers.
Hmm.
And it's going to be packed because they made the class a donation based class. So everybody wants a free class. A drop in is $18. But if they could do it for five or whatever they donate, they're going to. And I'm just like, but I'm not going to fail. And then I'll be
No,
certified. Whee!
course. And if anything, I have a really good friend in my cohort who is a certified yoga instructor. So if you want me to connect you with her for any tips, advice, I'm more than happy to do that. Totally up to
Ooh,
you.
that would be cool because I'm lost. I'm so nervous.
I think it's you just have to remember, like, you know everything. And this is kind of something that people tell to me as well, when I'm pursuing this path to be a dietitian. You are the expert, and the people are coming to you for you. Not to put
Hmm.
pressure, but saying that like they're really going to take what you say seriously and to heart, and they're going to really absorb it. And you're going to tell them the right things. You're going to teach them the yoga, you're going to get them in a really great centered place, and you're going to benefit them. So it's perfectly normal to be nervous. I mean, if it's your first one, it's like a final exam. Like how nerve-wracking is that, right? But I think you'll be fine. But yes, remind me if I forget, but I will try to see if I can connect you with Nicole. Is fabulous.
Yay.
Um, she's really great. So yeah, that would be a really nice thing. Um, okay, so I'm really happy to see that as a whole, things are looking up. I mean, is there anything in particular like that might be new or something you want to talk about?
Honestly, everything's great. I'm looking into going to massage therapy school.
Okay. So the next
That's
one's
kind of like
the
unrelated to nutrition.
no, that's totally fine. I mean, it's really great that you're already onto the looking at the next thing and getting a new skill. I think that's really commendable. Massage therapy school, what is that like? If you don't mind me asking.
Uh, so it's minimum 600 hours of instruction before you can take the test to get licensed,
Okay.
which looks like depending on the institution. I'm looking at a few. One I have my eye on, I'm going to an open house on January 12th. Their schedule is either I think like Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 1:30
Ooh,
for 4 days. Yeah, Monday through Thursday. Or 5:30 at night to 10:30, whatever makes them 5 hours and that's for 6 months. But I called them today to be like, is there a way I can do two in like two classes per day? So it's only 2 days a week instead of 4 days a week?
right. 4 days is a
Because
lot. It's such a commitment, right?
right, I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know. And the commute is really difficult there.
Oh, really? How's the commute?
It's like 2.5 hours,
Oh
multiple
no.
buses and trains. But there's also a school right here in the city, but I don't, it seems like they'll just treat me like a number. This school, you like, I'm meeting the actual owners. It's just like this old couple who are just really passionate about the science of massage.
Okay. So you think it's worth the time investment and the travel? Like it's significantly better than the local school. That's
If it's
fair.
possible.
And 2.5 hours is a big chunk of time to be traveling. But if it's something you're willing to do and something you can do without compromising other things, then I would say go for it?
Yeah. So I'm going to see that open house. If it's what I think it is, I'll find out a way. I have a rich boyfriend now, so I might just pay for some Ubers or something.
All right, there you go. We use what we got, right? We use what we got. All right. So that's really awesome. I'm really, really, really happy to hear all this. Uh, so great. And I mean, I even see now just in the 3 sessions how, things have changed and things seem to change pretty quickly in your life. Like you're doing the same things, but these like events come up and it really seems to throw off things like your sleep and the way you're eating. But I mean, this seems like a huge like last time it really felt like almost like crisis mode, a little bit. But now
Yeah,
it's
I really wasn't sleeping.
yeah, I can see that. And now it seems like stability and paradise. And that's maybe paradise is a strong word. But stability and things are just much better.
Yeah.
And it's so good to see. It's so, so, so good to hear that. All right. I mean, I know we talked a lot about your exercise. It's still the same. Like you're just doing a lot of with what your activities are. So that kind of
Mhm.
fills your requirement. Water is good, right? The same, would
Mhm.
you say? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. So yeah, it seems like we sort of have a solution to the difficulty falling asleep. Um, you know, if you mind me asking, what kind of edible is it? Like
Uh, like the brand?
the brand, or like what kind of food it is, like how many milligrams or grams? I forget which.
It's gummy. I don't remember the brand. Um, but I remember it's THC gummy with a 1-to-1 ratio, 1-to-1-to-1 of THC CBD to CBG or something, some
Okay,
compound
so
I don't know.
it's like very mixed of different common chemicals.
Yeah, and it uses indica to help you sleep, I guess. And they're 20 milligrams, but I can only handle very little, so I just like nibble off a corner. Probably like based on how it feels, I'm probably getting around 2.5 milligrams.
Okay, that's great. I mean, if it works, it works. My only concern would be if that's how your body is falling asleep, if it's a situation where suddenly you don't have access to them, will you have trouble again? But it seems like you say like you have access to them and also you don't even need a lot. So it seems like you buy like a supply and it would last you a long time, right? If you're just biting off like a little bit. So
Yeah.
I would say that's not much of a concern. So I mean, yeah, I mean, if it's working right now, it's working right now. And yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. Um, okay, so we did talk about a third goal, and this goal was a little bit, a little bit far-fetched, a little bit out there. It's kind of me thinking a little bit like
Was it the chocolate?
the chocolate thing.
I remember
Yes.
that.
I'm not as, I wasn't as focused on that as like the other two goals. I thought the other two goals are more important.
Hmm.
But this was more re-stimulating your appetite. But I mean, how has your eating been lately? I guess we didn't talk about that yet. How has your eating been lately?
It's been better, I think, because I was always eating like delicious food. Like I'm at home with the Thanksgiving food and then I'm eating out with my boyfriend and stuff. So it's been like pretty pretty good, I think. Like I've been waking up hungry.
Okay, great. That's awesome. So the appetite thing. Yeah.
It
So
seems like all these things go hand in hand, like the sleep with the appetite, um, with stress and stuff. It's like either I'm doing good, I'm sleeping, I'm feeling good, I'm eating, or I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, and I'm stressed.
very all or nothing, right? Yeah, everything definitely bleeds into each other. That's the importance of like lifestyle and making sure everything is balanced because everything does interrelate to one another. Um, all right. So, yeah.
What did
Mhm.
can you see my magnesium intake for
Oh,
those days?
absolutely. Let me take a look at your magnesium intake. It should have it. Let me just take a little look-see right here. Hmm. Lipids, protein, minerals. The magnesium was pretty solid, 81%.
Okay.
So you're getting the magnesium.
A doctor told me, because I suffer from migraines, and
Mhm.
she said if you get migraines, or probably I think also she said if you have anxiety, she said take like just take magnesium. And I haven't been taking my magnesium supplement. She was like, um, whatever the daily intake is, take like twice, like build yourself up to like twice as much. Like you cannot get enough magnesium.
Yeah, I don't think magnesium is a super high risk of toxicity. I think it has to be like a ridiculous amount.
Because you just poop it out.
Yeah. So because the common cause of any like vitamin or mineral toxicity, it's not we don't really get it from food. It's really more so from supplements.
Mm,
So yeah. It is rare. And I would say that, but really magnesium is really beneficial for mood, for sleep. I mean, I myself take it. It's
mm,
great. I really do. And I notice like a huge difference. I really, really do. So
mm.
yeah. I would say if you're not noticing any problems, what you're doing is fine. You know? Yeah. Interestingly enough, what was really low is sodium. And then see, that makes me wonder, like, we're following this program, but we have to question, is it completely accurate? I mean, it has a really great database of information, but obviously it's not going to be exact. So, you know,
Mm.
having a lower sodium, I mean, that's easy to fix. You add a little bit of salt to food, but you know,
Right.
but I mean, that's not something I'd be super concerned about. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this, I'm seeing a lot of green.
Yay.
Um, One thing it said, it seemed to spark concern, but again, like we have to take it with a grain of salt. You have a high fat intake of 133%.
Mm.
So, I mean, let me just try to see why that would be. I
I
guess,
do try to, I honestly try to eat more
hmm,
fat, like to get the calories and stuff.
right,
And like ideally, I still have kind of like a problem with like sugar and sweets and stuff, but my ideal diet, I would rather have like high fat, low carb, but not always be in ketosis
right.
because I heard that's bad for you long term.
Yeah, it can cause like acidity in the blood. It can cause all kinds of complications. But honestly, a lot of the fats I'm seeing are healthy fats though. Like there's a little bit of butter, but not a lot. But I'm seeing avocado, I'm seeing salmon. Like if you're having high amounts of like those healthy fats,
Mhm.
I don't think it's nearly as much of a concern as if it was like saturated fat, like cheese and dairy. You know what I mean? So it's something that, like the creamer says it's red, but I don't know if I'd really be, based on what you're actually eating, I don't think I'd be that concerned about it
Oh,
personally. So yeah, um, that's what I have to say about that. Let me just, okay, here it is. Still kind of learning how to use this thing,
I've
but
been struggling with iron because I have a very, very heavy period.
okay.
And a few times I had to like miss work because of it, which is like really rare for me. And then I never got my iron levels checked, but I got a cast iron and started eating a lot more meat.
Hmm.
And I haven't had to miss work since. But still, when I look at my iron needs, through food alone, I can never seem to like find food that gives it to me. Even when I incorporate red meat like every day. I'm like, why is it so hard to get iron? But I don't want to take an iron supplement.
Mm. People
I
have
don't
reported the iron supplements can cause, like constipation and GI issues. That's very common. Not
right.
that it's definitely going to happen, but yeah, I mean, usually it's a good bet to try food first. I mean, we talked about this just recently about bioavailability. Just because something has a lot of iron in it doesn't necessarily mean your body will actually absorb it. I think
Mm,
this is something a lot of people struggle with. I mean, not that you're anemic, but anemia is a pretty common condition. And
mm,
a lot of the time it's related to not having enough iron. I think what we discussed, just having more iron foods and just really having as many as possible. Um, like the meat, absolutely, that's a good choice. To have more iron. Clams, oysters, if you like shellfish is a pretty good source of iron. So you might want to
okay.
look into that a little bit. And then yeah, stuff like that. The spinach, as I said, the sweet potatoes have some iron in it as well. A lot of green stuff, peas, broccoli, string beans, spinach, like we just said. So just having some more stuff like that and just trying to really, maximize the iron foods in your diet. Because, I mean, from their analysis, like, it wasn't quite like you didn't have all of your iron, but it also wasn't like It says here you have like, oh no, this is just one day. Um, yeah, it says here you have like 70, like you have most of the iron you need.
Mhm.
So I mean, yeah, I would say just keep trying that, and then maybe you feel like it's still not getting better, maybe still consider the supplement, but I would definitely try more food approaches before I would go the supplement route, always. Um, so yeah. Um, let's see. I think that is most of what I wanted to talk about. I mean, since it's our last session, I we're not really going to be setting any goals. I mean, I guess the beans pursuit will continue. And, you're doing a great job with your sleeping goal. I'm really happy to hear that you did it for like half the week. I think that's great. I mean, I think a lot of the time, like, we set a goal and like people will just have done it like once and then never do it again. So the fact that you did it for like half of the week, I'm really happy with that. And it's a really, really, really hard thing to achieve. Like bedtimes,
Yeah.
it's just dependent on so many factors. So I'd be proud of myself for that if I were you. Definitely a pat on the back. Like, that's great. And I can see that it really is improving a lot of different things. So, yeah. And I mean, that was the big thing. I mean, even since the first session, we were talking about sleep and we talked about how we were like relying on food to go to bed and, maybe eating less than ideal food choices, like maybe eating sometimes larger amounts of food. So it seems that we addressed that problem and solved it. Not solved it, but like improved it. So
Progress.
really happy to see that. It's all about the progress. We can never get from here to here. It has to be here, then here, then here. It's just not possible to we try to think, especially this time of year with New Year's resolutions. Oh, January 1st, I'm gonna go to the gym 5 days a week and I'm gonna eat nothing but healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables, Mediterranean diet every day. Like just completely changing their personality overnight. Like it's just not
Right.
gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. What's probably going to happen is you do it for like what, maybe 2 or 3 days, you'll fall off, and you'll never do it again. It's really better to do it slow and progressively. So, yeah,
Manifest things first.
yes, 110%.
My roommate was trying to bug me. I was like, I'm
Ooh.
busy.
We in a session. Dare you?
I'm
No.
learning.
Um, but yeah. Um, yeah, that's kind of all I have. If there's nothing else that you'd like to discuss in particular, think we might be at our conclusion of this lovely journey we were on together. I just want to say thank you so much for helping me out with this. I originally was gonna have somebody like my professor assign me to someone in one of her like undergrad classes. I emailed her. I might have told you this already. She never answered. So ideally, like it's better to have somebody you never knew. But I was thinking of people who I
Hmm.
know who would actually show up to this and who I feel like would be good to counsel. And you definitely came to mind. So I'm really happy that it seems that I had a little bit of a positive impact, and I'm really happy to see that. And thank you so much for being so you were very cooperative and accommodating. I mean, I know we had cancellations here and there. We had to keep rescheduling. You were really great to work with and collaborate with. Your food diary was great. You definitely made my job a whole lot easier. So thank you.
Yay!
Thank you so
No
much for that.
problem.
Yes, absolutely. And
All on me anytime. I will be here.
absolutely. We always here for each other. All right. So thank you so much, Ariana. Again, it was a pleasure, and I wish you the best of luck in your health and wellness endeavors. You're a rock star. You're doing great. Keep doing it and take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.